Oops, there's the recording button. Oh, this intro will be shorter. And everyone will be happy about it. Jesus, I'm knocking over all kinds of stuff. How you guys doing? Captain Coots back again for our Fallout 4 modding tutorial, where we're going through the case study of Fallout 76 mutations that we're implementing in Fallout 4. We've been getting progressively more and more complicated with these things and having to make design choices using stuff that's established or making our own, really digging around for things. Today, we're kicking it up another level, and this is going to be really intimidating for a lot of you, but I promise that I'm going to try to introduce this in the easiest way possible, and down in the description there'll be some links so that you can download the file that we're creating today that's different from the regular mod file, because we are going to be doing scripting. Okay, so there's a lot of also resources that I'm going to link to down there, and you can just check YouTube for 100,000 different like how to script in Skyrim or Fallout 4 or what have you. Okay, but we are going to be using scripting for Chameleon, which may not seem like it requires scripting, but hopefully I'll be able to convince you that scripting is the way to go, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to pop open Chameleon right here real quick. You gain cloak effect while crouched, unarmored, and stationary. And actually, yeah, technically, stationary and not attacking. And not attacking. There we go. Okay, it's perfect now. All right, so what you might be onto, and is totally correct, is, okay, so maybe something like a stealth boy, or there's already armor that exists in the game that when you have the armor on, it makes you invisible while you are crouched, stationary, not attacking, these kinds of fun things. Okay, so you'd be on the right track. And so I've got an ability here, the Coots AB Chameleon, so we'll check that out. It's a spell I made. You know, just make the record. Yeah. And it points to something called Stealth Field. And I'm using 20 because that's sort of what was in the armor and how it was implemented before. And then we can see right here that I've built already quite a bit of logic up into it, okay? We've got the is attacking. No, that's set to 0. Is moving, set to 0. Is sneaking, set to 1. So those are all like our pre-requirements for things. This get race, power armor race equals 0, which you might not know is how Fallout 4 handles when you're in a power armor, and why things are different and why you can interact with things and can't, is that it actually changes your race to a power armor race, which is incidentally when in 76 you get those really weird bugs where you see people all stretched out and gaumy and their power armor is missing. It's because they're still the power armor race, but it's not resolving that power armor over them. Okay? But the thing missing from here, okay, is if they are armored or not. Okay? And it turns out that's really difficult to find, as in I can't find it anywhere that's crystal clear. Okay, so what I did, and what I'm going to walk us through right now, is I said, okay, I'm going to need a flag, something that turns on or off that determines whether or not I am armored. And then I need to be able to check to like set that flag. Do I turn it up and say, hey, I'm armored, or just down and no, I'm not armored? Okay. So if we go to global, so you click on miscellaneous and then global, I want you to go ahead and right click, select new, and I made a new global, use my prefix Coots, and I just called it is armored, and I set it equal to 0 at first. Okay, so this is going to be my global. When it's 1, I'm going to consider that I'm armored, and when it's 0, I'm not armored. Okay, so to just make that little change, and I know it's not much here, okay, is I'm going to go in the Chameleon. All right, go into my stealth field, edit the conditions with a new one, and we're going to get a global variable. And I just noticed that my green, or get global value, my green screen's acting up a little bit, but which global do I want? I want the one that says Coots is armored, and I want that to be the same as 0. Okay, great. So now I've got this logic built on here. It's all hunky-dory, okay? And it points to my Chameleon perk, which is way up here. You can see there's my Coots AB Chameleon right there. Okay, everything is sort of set up and primed and ready to go. But how can we tell if somebody's armored or not? Okay, so I had to write a script. And how I want this script to happen is it's not like it's churning all the time, but I need it to be there and waiting for the right sort of event so it can just do a quick calculation and tell me something. All right, specifically to tell if I'm armored or not. When you click on character and go down to quest, we're going to right click and hit new. Okay, quests are often the go-to things for holding on to scripts that we want running in the background or ready to run in the background when we need to. Okay, I'm going to give it an ID, Coots. Let's call this Chameleon Manager. All right, what you may have noticed is that I unclicked to run once. It makes me nervous. It's actually completely irrelevant for this one right here. Okay, and start game enabled needs to be checked. Don't care about the priority or anything like that. And I'm going to click on the OK button, which is right behind me. I'm going to close it. Now I'm going to reopen it. Okay, which seems a little weird. You see, it kind of gets populated. It's a full-blown script now. All right, we're going to click on the scripts tab, which is all the way over on the right. I'm going to click add. Right now, what you'll normally have if nothing's there, you might get wait a second, and then you'll have a butt ton of scripts. Creation kit won't respond. Facepalm a couple times. It'll go to the background, click on it, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. We got all these things. Oh my God, what do I pick? We're actually going to create a new script. So we're going to click new script and press OK. Right now, I want to give it a name. I'm going to call it the Chameleon Manager. It's okay if it's the exact same name as your quest, and I in fact like doing that. Now, namespace, this is sort of for organizational purposes. Okay, it turns out like little subfolders when you look at script source or how it gets compiled. All right. So in namespace, I'm going to go Captain Coots, which is the primary folder where all my scripts go. Okay. Then I'm going to go Fallout 76 because technically I'm working on more than just this mutations from Fallout 76. And then mutations. And I'm putting colons in between each of these. These are subfolders now. So if I were to look, I'd look in the directory Captain Coots. In there, a directory called Fallout 76. And in there, a directory called Mutations. All right, extends, leave it as quest. Don't click anything here. And the documentation string, this is something that you can type to help you sort of remember what's going on. Okay, just going to click OK. You're going to wait a second. That window's going to close. This window that shows up right there with a little plus, and then you get this window for properties, and there's nothing there. I'm going to hit cancel. Okay, now many of you won't have an external editor set up. I set up using Notepad++. There's a link in the description below that can take you to how to do that. That's how I like to do it. But you can edit source directly. I'm going to edit an external editor just because it makes pretty colors. Okay. Now I have ahead of time paste typed up the whole thing. There we go. Go ahead and delete that. All right. I want to go through each of these parts here. Okay, to explain to you how I'm thinking. Hopefully you'll get through it. And I will have a link to where you can download this code. Okay. So to start off here, I define properties. These are things that I'm going to define in the CK to attach onto the script and say, hey, use this. All right. So a global variable property is armored, and then auto. I'm not going to get into what auto means right now. Okay. This is where I'm going to put my Coots is armored global variable. So that way the script knows to use that thing. Okay. Now variables, this is something that I want to be able to use in multiple parts of my script. And it's going to be an actor, and that actor, I'm calling it player ref. Okay. If you see things typed in white, that's usually where I had a choice of what to put in there. Okay. If you see things in pink, like these, those are data types. Okay. And then these yellows, these are like sort of like required or like identifying words. There's like, hey, this is what's going on next. Okay. And then blue, these are special, these are events. The very first event, okay, how I tell the script, hey, this is when I want you to do something, is on quest init. Okay. So as soon as the quest is initialized, which we remember was game start. Okay. So when that event happens, I want to take player ref, and what I'm going to set it equal to is this game.getPlayer. I'm going to ask Fallout 4, hey, grab the player and put him in this variable. So that way when I type player ref, what I'm meaning to say is, hey, be the NPC that's in the game. Okay. And now I do a number of complicated things, and I'm going to try to go through them a little bit at a time. Okay. Very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call a function that I named check armored. Okay, and it has no inputs and no outputs. That's why I just have open close parentheses. So it's like a function, like in math, like f of x. There's no inputs here. I'm not passing anything in. Okay, and I'll get to the registration in just a second. All right, so we go, what is check armored going to do? Okay, I'm going to start off with a bool that's a logical yes or no, armored, and set it equal to false. Okay, now what this chunk of code right here does is this is what's going to make my mod require Fallout 4 script extender. Okay, there's no real good way to do this in vanilla. I can't think of one at all. Okay, so if you go to the link that I put down in the description, it'll explain how the slot index 11, I think, is the head. Yeah, I think it's head, then 12, 13, 14, 15 or something like that, or it's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Either way, it's those armor spots. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the helmet, whatever. All right, and so that's what this is going to do. It's going to set something called slot ind or slot index to 11, and as long as that value is less than or equal to 15, what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to get the worn items from the player, and so this is Fallout 4 script extender territory. Okay, then what this says is, okay, the worn item that I just grabbed in that slot, so like maybe it's my right arm, take the item part of it, because it stores a whole bunch of information, like the item, any mods on it, the material texture, etc., etc. Right? And I want to check, hey, is it an armor? Okay, so this as armor thing right here will return a 1 if it's an armor, and a 0 otherwise, so things like the underwear, suits, or just the clothing. Okay, if that triggers, then I want to set armored equal to true, and then that Coots is armored business, I'm going to set value equal to 1. I think, oh no, that's required right here for a minute. Okay, and then that's it for that little spot. Now this says, take the slot index, which is currently 11, and then increment it by 1. So now it's 12. End the while loop, come back to the top. Is 12 less than or equal to 15? Yes. Go through the whole process on the next slot. Repeat this until you've looked at all the slots that we care about. Okay? If you leave that and armored is still, see those 2 equal signs? If it's still the same as false, then I want you to set the Coots is armored thing to 0. All right, so this is really the workhorse here. This function check armored is doing all the work for us. Okay, it's how we're looking through the different slots and saying, is there armor there and is there isn't? Okay, and that is what you need Fallout 4 script extender for. Okay, now what about when you put a piece of armor on? Well, that's not the quest initialization. That's not why. How would check armor get called? That's where these registrations come in. Okay, so I want to register for a remote event. That what a better way of saying this is, I want to wait until the player reloads a save game, or I want to wait until the player equips an item, or I want to wait until the player unequips an item. That's what these register for remote events do for us. Okay, so just when an actor loads the game, we'll check if it's armored. Why? Just because, I'm just being thorough there. You probably don't even need that. I'm going to collapse that piece of code. Now, when the actor equips something, okay, I need to know who it is that's equipping and what they're equipping. Okay, this third argument here we're not using. All right, so if the person who's doing the equipping is player ref, see why we got player, and if the object they're equipping is an armor piece, as armor, then check armored. And all that's going to do for us right there is going to go look at it and go, yep, it is, and set that variable to 1. I could have done it in here, but I chose to just put all that functionality into the function check armored. Okay. Now, when the player removes an item, okay, I need to check, hey, is the person who removed an item the player? And is what they removed armor? Then go ahead and do check armored. Again, I could have reduced it, but the thing is right here, if they remove one piece of armor, do they have other pieces on, or was that the last one? I don't know. So check armor is going to do all that for me. Okay, I'm going to save, and I have run compile, and you're going to get all of these fucking errors because I made a mistake and I changed something to player ref, And I didn't write it everywhere. I tend to write player a lot. I'm going to save that and recompile it. This is great. You got to see errors. This is success. What you saw before was not a success. Okay, I'm going to press any key to continue. Now, I did this all in Notepad++, okay? But if I minimize this and I go back to here and I go to edit source inside, it's all been saved in here now. And this is the regular editor. I don't like it because it's hard to look at and it hurts my eyeballs. Okay, but now I'm going to double click on this because we added a property. And that property needs to be filled. See, right now it wants to be a global variable, but it's holding no one, default type none. I'm going to double click on this thing right here. And right here, I'm going to type Coots. And then my is armored shows up. And I'm going to click OK. And OK. And OK. Hit save. All right. Now, this guy doesn't need to be used by anybody. It's going to kick off. And it's just going to start keeping track of everything. So let's double check to make sure that everything is the way it's going. Why is that unused? Very weird to me. Go by form ID, please. All right, perk Chameleon is using Boots AB Chameleon. All right, I don't know why it says it's unused. It's right there. I know it's being used. Anyway, let's test it out. Did I even test out bird bones with you guys? I don't think I tested bird bones for you last time. Try. Okay. So we're going to need, I'm going to put headphones on. We're going to need a piece of armor to put on and take off, put on and take off. We might get 2 of them. All right, so we can fully test this. All right, so let's load my mutation tester, who doesn't have any armor, and that's okay. I can't believe I never checked bird bones with you guys last video, bird bones, where we discussed making compromises and just basically deciding it's not worth trying to finagle something that seems too hard and coming up with something that's probably just as good for 9 out of 10 people. The one person who plans their strategy around slow falling, forget it, right? If you've made it this far into the video, congratulations. The tutorial's already done. Already told you I'm testing. Timestamps down there. Awesome. You know, I appreciate that from me to you. You can alter weapons and attire of most companions by accessing the trade menu in Dialogue. Stop targeting dog. Alright. So, let's do the following. Help bird for perk. Alright, so there's the bird bones mutation. Player.add perk 0C015DAA. Alright, and now if we check here, we have 1 strength now because we lost 4. We can't go below 1. We gained 4 agility. Wonderful. My AP is much higher than it was before. Now, how do we check the fall damage? Give you a hint. Like TCL, that toggles clip. Most of us know that if we've played Skyrim and the whatnot. Point yourself up to the clouds and start a walking. Ooh, I'm only ignoring like 60% of that falling damage. Here, let's try it here. I might survive this. I didn't survive. There's no good way to test it. You can trust me. I set it equal to 0 and it worked. Oh, it was painful. Yes, please. Oh, there's so much fail. I'm just inflating my YouTube time in the hopes that eventually I have enough people watching and I can monetize. Oh, that was bad. I should have come up with a good way of testing that. That was not a good way of testing that. Like falling from a much more controlled height. That was way too high for bird bones to handle. And if you find that you want there to be more reduction in the falling damage, that can always be tweaked. Matter of fact, I've already been working on possibly adding MCM control into this, and so we'll get there. All right, the one we really want to test, right, is Chameleon. All right, player.add item 0C0. Oh no, add perk. Jesus, perk 0C015 DAC. I now have the Chameleon perk. Okay. I'm invisible. I move, no longer visible. Invisible. If I stand, no longer invisible. Alright. Let's check the armor stuff now, right? So help. Let's go with leather. Or Armo. Alright, let's go player.add item. Oh, what? 237688. And can we get like a left leg or something? Oh, right arm. There we go. 22 DA 59. Okay, cool. So if I put either of these pieces of... Oh, God, I hate this chameleon effect. So why is it double visioned? It's ugly. Oh, God, that's like impossible. What is going on there? Anyway, leather right arm. I didn't seem to add the other one. Okay, leather right arm, crouch. Not invisible because it's armor. Let's go grab a piece of clothing over here. The road leather's off this guy. Zoom in. Ignore him. He's for something different. Alright, drift traffic. Okay, great. He was naked. Demonetized. Does not count as armor. We're totally fine. Pretty cool, huh? Even though it covers that spot. This is a clothing. It's not an armor. So, that's basically it. If I go invisible, and then I put on that armor, I become visible again. It's awkward. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that helped. I hope it wasn't completely moronic.